Welcome back to Future Stars for INC Sports Nutrition, and women's football is going gangbusters at the moment. So much participation, so much news coverage over it, and the person to go to is Ros Lanigan. She's all over it. She's in here with Simon Lethlean from the AFL. Welcome, guys. And Ros, there's been a game on this morning between Melbourne and Brisbane. Yes,
a cracking game at the MCG. In the end, Melbourne got it done pretty easily by 71 points. Jess Cameron, the former Australian cricketer who is taking an indefinite break from cricket at the moment, she kicked 6 goals and was the standout.
With good reason when you kick 6.
Yeah, that's right, Simon. She was the standout today.
Yeah, she started. She kicked, I think, 5 in the first 3 quarters and then 1 late. So, yeah, she really performed on the big stage.
She's got a big decision to make in the next few months, I'd imagine, deciding whether she's going to really follow football or not. Ali Blackburn was the major disposal getter for the Demons. She had 25 possessions and Brooke Lachlan had 24. Daisy Pearce played a slightly different role to her normal role today. She played high half forward rather than on the ball. She had 19 disposals, 5 marks and a goal as well. We've got some more highlights from this game. Kate McCarthy was the only goal scorer, multiple goal scorer rather, for Brisbane. She kicked 2 majors. Look, you can't take too much out of this game, can you, Simon, in that this is probably 50% of the best players from Victoria and the best of Queensland, but when we get into next year with the National Women's League, Victoria will be broken down a bit more into further teams.
Yeah, some of the best women here today will be spread across certainly some of the Victorian clubs. So, yeah, much bigger spread of talent in the major league next year, so won't be as one-sided as that, I wouldn't have thought.
Simon Lethlean from the AFL, all over the women's football. Talk us through the explosion and the participation at the moment, not only in, I guess, mature women football, but also in the younger grades. Yeah,
look, it's the biggest growth part of our industry, and I think 46% increase in participation last year, 163 new teams. Looking at about 250 new teams this year across Australia. So it's exploding and the momentum's great, and the AFL clubs are keen as much as well.
Probably the biggest news this week was the Taylor Harris signing/non-signing at Brisbane. They, of course, announced last week they had signed her as their marquee player. This is some highlights of Taylor playing for the Lions today. But, of course, you can't be signed if you don't have a licence, if the club doesn't have a licence yet.
Yeah, it is hard to sign if you haven't got a licence, but I think what she said was that she's committed to playing for Brisbane if they get a team, and they're obviously the one team in Queensland that are keen for one, so I think that'll happen, but yeah, procedurally it can't happen just yet.
Are we likely to there's been so much talk, 4 teams, 6 teams, what is the likely outcome, particularly from the Victorian model?
Look, I think we're certainly looking at licensing 8 teams, but I guess we're now thinking about 10 based on the quality of submissions from the AFL clubs and the interest and momentum. So it's a good problem to have. We've got some work to do to make sure we've got the right talent to be able to sustain 10 teams in a comp.
Collingwood came out this week and said that they've put their hat in the ring for a netball side as well in the new National Netball League next year. What does, if any, does it have an effect on their bid for a women's National League football team?
No, look, it doesn't, and they've been, I think, keen to say that the resources will be separate. So, look, they're a big club, great facilities, and they'll do both well if we get a chance to give them a licence as well.
Taylor, your side is just taking over the world, isn't it? I mean, starting to win footy matches, now on netball side, and perhaps a women's footy team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Eddie's busy man at the moment. Great news with the netball team signing up and the application for a women's football team as well. So, yeah, well, it's a really exciting time for the footy club.
There's been a lot of talk about athletes from other codes joining the AFL next year, from other sports entirely, sometimes athletics. Jess Cameron, of course, was one of them who kicked 6 goals today. We'll have a look at some of her highlights there. Kim Mickle, a javelin star, is another one that's been bandied about. What's the AFL's view on first-choice athletes, i.e. women who have chosen football as their sport, versus athletes who are going to potentially come across from other sports?
Look, I think we can coexist for the time being. We're starting off the season next year in March. What we have done is had some talent searches this year with girls from frisbee, athletes, basketball, netball and cricket, as you can see. So we're open to any of the girls that want to play to be involved, and I think they can coexist early on, but at least it's an aspirational pathway now for elite footy, and that's the main thing. That's
something I spoke to Meg Hutchins, the new female football operations manager at the Collingwood Football Club, about. Let's have a listen to what she had to say.
Something that I've dreamed of ever since I was a little girl, running around in the backyard, commentating to myself about me kicking goals and whatever for Collingwood. Yeah, you have to sort of pinch yourself every now and again. If someone who's going to Olympic Games or someone's competing at a national level wants to try football, then I think that's fantastic for the game. There will be some disappointed girls out there that may miss an opportunity because these elite athletes have chosen to take this path, but the opportunities will come down the track.
Another major point of discussion, Simon, has been the talk about rule changes and the need to maybe tweak the women's game a little bit to make it more attractive to the spectator. Something that's been a bit contentious. What's the AFL's view on where that will head?
Look, I think the main thing is we'll be respectful to the history of women playing football, but it's a congested game compared to the men's footy sometimes. So we looked at a couple of rules today, the last touch out of bounds, and also some congestion rules about having a certain amount of players in the forward lines at stoppages. So we'll try a few things, but it won't be by any means a raft of changes. We'll be respectful and just try and tweak a few things.
Ros, Simon, thanks very much for joining us. I know my young girls, they're 4 and 5, they wear the Bulldogs and Richmond, so hopefully in about 15 years this is absolutely flying and they can go in there and play for those. It's going to be fascinating. You're here every week to talk about it. Women's football is just so exciting at the moment. Thanks for joining us on Future Stars.
Thanks.